But it wouldn't be nothing without a woman.
Hey, started off riding man with the geeters with me. She didn't work out the pot about the cheek. All of them times my bad ass still ain't listen, was living, but taught me the ways they.
Happy Monday. Yo, it is your podcast bestie, Danny Marie, and I come to you Monday through Friday, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to talk to you about all things podcasting, all things AI, and we sprinkle in some pop culture in there somewhere. Speaking of pop culture, I was trying to find some stuff on Threads because I don't do X. X is X'd off my list. So I was trying to find something about this whole Cat Williams and Kevin Hart amends. I guess they made amends. So you have Cat Williams and Kevin Hart, two people who I guess just didn't care for each other. They made sure to give each other space. They were not operating in the same spaces. But for whatever reason, fast forward, cut to yesterday, Mother's Day, Kevin Hart has the roast, Kevin Hart roast. I don't recall what the title is, but Cat Williams apparently was roasting Kevin Hart. And then so I went to go do some of my own research under this Shannon Sharpe show, only to find out, fun fact, I was number 2 ranked under this Shannon Sharpe show for remixing that episode or video and getting the most views, number 2. I guess the person before me was like 180,000 views, no, 300,000 plus views. I was around 180,000 views. And then it started to kind of dwindle down beyond that. So that's cool. That's actually how I got a lot of views on YouTube when I was doing that, taking that approach. So I was remixing people's content using shorts and getting followers and subscribers that way. So that's a strategy. But I decided not to continue to do that because I wanted the people to follow me and stick around and not expect me to do that kind of content. So I was researching Kevin Hart and Cat Williams, and I found that to be so funny. I did not watch the full video on Netflix. I encourage all of you to do it. But I'm going to be listening and watching for some of your comments surrounding the Cat Williams and Kevin Hart men's, I guess. So first of all, do you think you could ever reconcile with someone who called you a trope or what did he say? Industry plant? Do you think you could be friends with someone like that? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And while you're in the comment section, interact, engage, comment the word live. If you're watching live, comment the word replay if you're catching the replay. But do you think you can be cool with someone who said you were an industry plant, bro? Or do you think sometimes it's cool to put your differences aside to make some coins and make you have to eat your words? So again, I did not watch the full video of Cat Williams and Kevin Hart, but I did just find a few clips. So he was like, Cat Williams, that is, said, what kind of person basically do you have to be that they are willing to go find your enemies, because you don't have any other friends left. So they went and found your enemies to have them roast you. That was funny. And just a few other jabs and shots. I didn't watch anything else, like I said. So I don't know anything else. But that was funny to me. But do you think you could do like Chris Brown and Usher? Again, I don't know that we've seen them go back and forth, but we just kind of heard the ramblings and rumblings, and now they're going to go on tour together. Do you think you could be cool with someone who you just did not like, who you absolutely despise, who you talked bad about? Do you think it's worth it to you to be a person of integrity? Or do you think a little roast ain't never hurt nobody, I'm going to get this bag? And do you think Kevin Hart and Cat Williams will truly be good after this? Do you think they'll do more work together? Because I do think it's a good look for the culture. I think I saw, shout out to Mr. Jerry of the CAP podcast. He was one of the people who came with us to Atlanta, and I saw him put up a post, and that just came top of mind. So let me go find it real quick. That's Cultivate, Accumulate, and Prosper, the CAP podcast. And Mr. Jerry Davis said, I don't know. He's been working since he posted it. I keep seeing other stuff now. But basically to say, two grown men, here we go. Fan of Kat and Kevin for different reasons. Highly respect when in this current climate in America, two Black men with beef can put aside their differences and bring laughter and resolve. What our communities would look like if everyone would do this. Govern yourselves accordingly. So I do shout out to Mr. Jerry. This is the CAP podcast, if you guys can see that. Cultivate, accumulate, and prosper. But I love what he said. Two Black men putting their differences aside for the culture, basically. I agree with that. I love that. It's a good look. I think we need more of that. I do also think you do need to be a man of principles, right? So be principled. And if somebody does not jive with your principles, then you don't necessarily need to be hanging around in the same circles, but you can at least be amicable, right? You just have no beef, no hate. And I think time is too short for us to all hate each other. I think we should be working more in collaboration and community with one another. Speaking of community and collaboration, the topic for the day is why small creators need community more than virality. And I saw another video of my guy Tango, calling my brother, talking a little bit about this too. He was speaking on his platform in his live earlier today about how, as of recently, since he started, he's been on here almost 20 years, on Facebook, excuse me. He's been on Facebook almost 20 years and just recently started monetizing. And that's because he was a part of a challenge that made him do homework every day. And you have to post at least once a day. So he's starting to see an uptick of followers and an uptick in engagement. But he was like, if I wasn't getting paid to be on Facebook or on this social media platform, I probably would not be here, because it's too much racism and everything happening. So not speaking on that in particular, but what he said was, to me, I encourage people not to chase after virality, but to chase after community. Another great point, one that I will walk away today with. And then why small creators need community more than virality. We'll talk more about that in the latter half of this live. But I just love that both of those comments from both Jerry and Tango stood out to me. I want to shout them out. And basically, I'm here every day giving you the 211 on all things podcasting, AI, storytelling, pop culture. But I did not formally introduce myself. I help businesses and creators use podcasting as a marketing tool so they can build trust with their audience and turn listeners into customers through clear content strategies, systems, and training. And by the way, if you are a business or advertiser, I help you get in front of the right audience so you can increase sales and brand awareness through podcast promotions, creator partnerships, and live activations. And then, of course, our vocabulary word of the day, cold open. Cold open meaning the beginning of a podcast episode before the official intro music or formal introduction. The simple definition, the hook before the intro. Sometimes we call that B-roll if it's a video or vodcast. And then I guess you could say it's interchangeable because it's also the same audio in most cases that's going to be applied to your audio version, the MP3 version of the episode too. So That's a new word I hadn't heard of, and that's why I like to share at least one podcast term of the hour so we all can stay sharp and learn technology and tech tools and technical jargon that maybe we were not familiar with. So cold open is the beginning of a podcast episode before the official intro music or formal introduction. Let me know in the comments today or anytime this week if you end up using this word cold open. I challenge you to try to use the word in a sentence with some of your podcast peeps. All right, but let's get into some of the recent updates. Mind you, I get a report every day about the things that I am particularly interested in, and then I come on live and I talk to you guys about what I've learned. So, number one, podcast listening continues reaching record highs. Edison Research Infinite Dial 2026 reports more Americans are consuming podcasts monthly than ever before, with especially strong growth among adults 55 and older. Video podcasting is rapidly becoming standard. Buzzsprout launched Apple Podcast video distribution support, signaling continued pressure for creators to become cross-platform video brands instead of audio-only shows. Talked a little bit about this last week on one of my lives. It's great to do both, but an ecosystem nonetheless. More podcasters are now starting to create their own media platforms, their own ecosystems. And it doesn't just mean podcasting, it means lives, it means social media with your regular posts, your shorts. It means monthly subscribers. It means something funneling into this ecosystem around the clock. Reuters Institute says younger audiences increasingly associate podcasts with YouTube-style viewing instead of traditional listening. This continues reshaping discovery and monetization strategies. So as you see more listeners in the demographics changing, younger people are beginning to listen to podcasts, but they're actually going to YouTube so they get the whole video experience. So they're streaming on YouTube in many cases. James Murdoch is reportedly in talks to acquire Vox Media podcast division and New York Magazine assets, highlighting ongoing consolidation inside podcast and media ecosystems. Again, go back to the live that we did, I believe, Friday, where we talked a lot about this. There is a reason why we're starting to see big business make big investments into AI. And now you're seeing people are buying up catalogs and buying people's content, either to train their AI or either to repurpose the content in many cases, but also as a small-time creator or independent podcaster or media personality. When you start, or at least in the early stages, while you still have a grasp on everything, you should be documenting everything so that in the event you want to exit, you have a clear exit plan and you have all of these digital assets and everything that you can package together, and you have a nice, clean buyout, hopefully. If you're doing your due diligence and you're documenting the process and you're saving all of the assets and archiving everything accordingly, there is a very good chance someone would buy your content from you. And that's what protecting your IP, your intellectual property, actually means. Because someday there might be a person who wants to buy your content, your 300 plus episodes on health and wellness. Or there may be a person who wants to buy your 500 plus episodes on true crime, right? So someone out there is paying attention to you, even if you're not paying attention. And the best thing that you can do for yourself starting today is document. And a quick pivot, I would say, in terms of getting good about healthy habits when it comes to podcasting, reach out to a sponsor or two at least once a day. Look at your podcast analytics at least once a week. Go live at least once a week. Upload a new episode at least once a week. Attend an event at least once a month. Do another podcast episode as a guest at least 2 times a month. Go to a festival or conference so that you stay sharp when it comes to podcasting at least once a quarter. Those are good, healthy practices to have. And then if I did not say it already, because this is what prompted it, is document your process daily, okay? At the end of the day, when you're winding down, or at the beginning of the day, just write out a free write of everything on your mind about what you did, about how successful things were, about the flow, about your agenda. Write it all down. All of that data and stuff that you're looking up once a week that tells you about your downloads and your most successful and viewed episodes, store that information as well. I myself have started to create my own dashboard using something called Lovable. So if you don't know anything about vibe coding, Lovable allows for you to do that. You can create almost anything through vibe coding. I know Manus is the same way, but I use Lovable. And I've been creating a whole website or dashboard or whatever you want to call it of my, like for instance, when I do my Launch Your Podcast Challenge, I take all of that information and I store it on my dashboard. The testimonials, the reviews, the questions that were asked, all of that. So you should do the same thing. Store your own information, your own data that tells you everything about the build of your podcast, things that you found to be successful, things that weren't successful, your whole SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, the threats, your competition. It's so funny to me when people say, I don't have any competition. We're the first of our kind. That's not true. You just did not do your due diligence and your research. But somehow store all of that information, because there may be a time where somebody says, hey, I want to buy all that off of you. And if you can hand off everything with clean books, clean record keeping, and things that are like just tangible, there's moolah in it for you. But anyway, Podcasting Morning Chat officially rebranded into Podcasting Morning Show, reflecting how creator education communities are evolving into larger live media ecosystems. If I didn't say that, Podcast Awards season momentum continues, growing internationally. Dear Rachel received the Australian Audio Award nomination after massive Apple and Spotify chart performance. So to get some of these deets, I use sources like Pod News, Infinite Dial 2026, and Reuters Institute Podcast Report. Now let's talk AI. AI-powered podcast generation tools continue advancing rapidly. New research around zero-shot podcast generation is accelerating realistic AI-generated conversations and synthetic podcast workflows. Enterprise AI spending remains one of the hottest investment sectors globally as companies continue prioritizing infrastructure, automation, and multi-modality AI systems. AI creator workflow conversations are also exploding across podcast and media communities. AI editing, AI clipping, AI thumbnails, AI summaries, automated show notes, AI-generated social distribution, AI. Agentic AI systems are capable of autonomous task execution, continuing to dominate tech conversations heading into summer of 2026. And AI-generated podcast discovery and recommendation systems are becoming a major focus area for platforms as the number of shows continues expanding. So I talked about that as well last week. Discoverability is kind of getting hard out here for the small fish in the pond. So when you have somebody like Amazon doing 120 plus episodes in a month, basically reviewing their own products, you're competing with something like that. They're taking over when it comes to discoverability and SEO, right? So how can you stand out? You have to figure that part out, but stay tuned. We'll talk about that in another future episode. Upcoming podcast conferences. I know the podcast summit is happening in Atlanta, put on by David Shands, and he just had a group of people join the team. So that should be interesting to see how that impacts the conference that's coming up in July. I believe that's July 2nd, 2026. New Zealand Podcast Summit. Current industry focus, they're focusing on video podcasting, creator growth systems, hosting platform evolution, and podcasting, New Zealand Podcasting Summit coverage. So I didn't research these myself, but some viral podcast clips and social conversations. NBA playoff discussions continue dominating sports podcast clips and YouTube shorts. AI replacing traditional creator workflows remains one of the biggest entrepreneurship podcast topics. Media ecosystem conversations are exploding across creator podcasts as creators move beyond single platform strategies. Political creator media fractures surrounding Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire sparked major debate about creator-led media sustainability. All right, in the world of pop culture and entertainment, Taylor Swift remains a dominant entertainment podcast topic following continuing award show and music industry buzz. It would be so freaking bad, and I don't even think Trevor Kelsey, whatever his first name is, Travis, I don't even think he can completely ever get over the fact that if they did not work out, I don't think he could ever come out to see the light of day ever again if him and Taylor Swift never work out. Because since he started the podcast and she featured on the podcast, I swear that's all they talk about. No Doubt's Sphere residency in Las Vegas is generating major nostalgia and entertainment podcast conversations. Celebrity family podcast launches continue rising as influencer families increasingly move into podcast media businesses. You guys should see my sons behind the scenes. They've been recording their podcast. It's so cute. One day I was taking a shower while they were recording, and my oldest son, he comes in and he's like, "Mom, Princeton's he's not responding to my questions on the podcast." So it's so cute. Just to see how they have been watching and paying attention to me, to see now they're interested in doing their own podcast. So I think it's a smart idea to bring the family in because, like I said, a podcast is a hub. It's not even just the final destination. It is the entry point, and then it opens the door to so many other opportunities. Last Saturday, we talked about the 8 ways to monetize your podcast. There is a replay. I shared it with many of you through email for those of you who asked. But think about 8 revenue streams, right? And then think about every person in the family who can then create their own 8 revenue streams just from this podcast that you create. So I love the fact that more influencer families are paying attention. And I talked about this as well when I attended the Black Effect Podcast Festival. Homegirl came back and she told us about her podcast. It was her and her daughter, I believe. Tika Sumpter, you might remember her from Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And of course, she's done many other things. But Tika was talking about her and her daughter, I believe, started a podcast together. So I'm just loving that more families are starting to adopt this idea that everybody can get in on the podcasting fun. And you guys, I think that concludes the updates. Now for the main topic. As you've seen it, the title of the day, why you should be more concerned about community than virality. And I wasn't thinking about doing this, but my brain just kind of operates like this. I remember watching this Tamron Hall clip of the young lady who, the very mindful, very demure. Let's see if we can find her, because she talks a lot about this. And I don't even remember her name because I wasn't on TikTok. I didn't follow the story, but let's see if we can share. I'm not going to put it on screen or share my video. I am going to do the audio. I recognize that when you screen share, you are more at risk for copyright infringement. So I am just going to share with you the audio of the very mindful, very demure conversation. And I probably will need to remove my headset to do that. But I just think it's so poignant because she being Jules LeBron, was viral for doing that very mindful, very demure viral TikTok. But talk about virality doesn't necessarily take you exactly where you think you are going to go. And this is why community is so important. So let's just remove the headset altogether and let us hear what Miss Jules LeBron has to say about all of this.
Side of fame. What really happens when your life changes overnight and the spotlight doesn't come with a safety net? Jules LeBron became a viral sensation with her very demure moment.
Very mindful and cutesy and very demure.
But behind the lights and headlines, when did the money start coming in?
That started coming out, I want to say like 2 weeks after. And I knew it was different because now it wasn't, oh, we'll give you $2,000 for a video. It was $45,000 for a video.
$45,000 for a video.
Everything taken care of, everything paid.
She says the aftermath nearly broke her.
It sent me into a spiral that ruined my life.
Today in a daytime
spiral
exclusive,
that
Jules
ruined her
LeBron
life.
opens up about what fame really cost her.
Everyone makes you seem like this is so lucky and this is like you should be so happy that this happened. And it's like I am happy it happened, but it's like, but why am I not happy?
And how she's reclaiming her life. And Dana Vaughn's meteoric rise to fame from television to the music stage.
Okay, so that opening segment was for Jules LeBron, and then now they're talking about somebody else. But she wasn't happy, even with the virality. And I would like to say it's probably for various reasons, but there wasn't community at the heart of what she did. And that's why I never, not to speak against anyone who did, because there's a lot of people who made a killer and who have changed their lives because they got on the TikTok bandwagon. But just like I told you earlier when I opened, I did my first viral video on YouTube chasing views. And then what I realized is that's not the lane I want to operate in, because people are going to always be expecting the next jucking and jive. They're going to want you to continue and keep up with that. And I am not the type. I am not the type. I used to be that way. I used to be real crazy and very entertaining, but now I don't have the bandwidth to be jucking and jiving and performing, and I'm not into all of that anymore. So, now people are expecting you to continue with entertaining them. And if you don't do that, then you're going to lose followers because people came to you because they wanted you to entertain them. So when I did that viral video, a talking head video with Shannon Sharp and Cat Williams behind me, that got 180,000 views and garnered me maybe at least 200 followers. But there were some of them were like, where's the rest? Why aren't you doing this in every other short that's up on YouTube? And I just was not the one. So I did not do that. But I can understand how, people who join TikTok, you have to kind of keep up. There's performance metrics, vanity metrics, and all of those things that you have to keep up with. And that can make or break people. One thing we don't talk about often, which we might talk about sometime this week, now that I'm thinking about it, is creator fatigue. I'm just now getting into this, and it wasn't even because I wanted to. I never wanted to become a quote unquote content creator, but because life kind of forced many of us to pivot. This is basically what I'm doing. And then if you want your business to be successful, you have to have a social media or digital presence. So, I say all that to say small creators need community more than virality, and we're talking more about it now. Let me know if you guys know about that story, by the way. The story of Jules LeBron. I think I'm going to go watch that after this because, again, I just caught a clip. I didn't watch the full thing, but I do think it's very telling of where we are, the times that we're in, how burnout is impacting people. And it's not just content creation, it's everything. Work, all the news that we are met with every day, just trying to survive. I can't believe I saw the other day, minimum wage is still $7. That's freaking bananas, the federal minimum wage. So I'm just thinking about all of these things right now and just rambling, but the that's you can't even fill up your tank. I guess I didn't know that was minimum wage or the federal minimum wage because out here in Washington, our minimum wage is like $20-something because the cost of living is very high. So I was just shocked to hear that we're still on a $7 minimum wage and y'all expect people to survive. You got to pay for your car, your insurance, your home, daycare. I don't understand how people are doing it. I just pray for the world that we all live in. That's all I can say. Okay. Walk on by. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah. Last thing, I'm going to ramble off here. BET is looking for ambassadors. So you might decide to go to their social media to find more information, or you may decide to visit the website. I am not endorsed or sponsored by BET, but I do think that for many of us who are podcasters, maybe you have an interest in doing something with production or, behind the scenes working with talent, be a showrunner, whatever. They're looking for people. So can small creators, y'all, I tell you sometimes. Okay. Somehow when I get to the part where I'm supposed to do reading off of the notes, even though I have everything queued up before I start, somehow it gets discombobulated. So what I will say, just from working with people and talking about my own experiences, I think that's what God is intending. It's like, girl, stop reading and start speaking from the heart. Okay. So when I first started, let's just say I started the Mother and Daughter Duo podcast, which I talk about very often. It's still up there. You can go find it, search it for yourself. It was my mother and I. And the first thing we did to rely on momentum is our community. We invited some people to join us and do a premiere at a movie theater. And we asked them to give their review of the podcast on video, and we would use that for promotion. So we had to, from the beginning, we had to rely on community to help propel us forward. Community, at the end of the day, when the numbers are fluctuating, when the algorithm is hard to keep up with, at the end of the day, you can go to your community and you can trust your community will show up and support you. Behind the scenes, we're building community. So we show up every Saturday. Shout out to the podcast peeps. And we're encouraging one another. We're supporting one another. We're listening to each other's episodes. We are featuring on each other's podcasts. We're giving support. We're giving advice. Sometimes we're sowing our dollars into one another. That is the type of community that you need. And when it comes to scaling your podcast, I think you're going to have different layers of community members. You're going to have somebody that's popping in and out on occasion to listen to your podcast or watch a new upload. You're going to have the people that listen every week more frequently and maybe join your Facebook group. And then you're going to have the people who buy the products from you because they first discovered you from your podcast. And then you're going to have the people that want to work with you. They want to pay for your knowledge and your expertise, or they want to meet you in person. So they're going to show up to your live events. Those are the people that are going to carry you forward. At the end of the day, your success is contingent on the people who show up and support you. And if you're not sowing into your community and pouring into them, there will be no reciprocity. There will be no people pouring back into you. There will be no platform. You're going to have listener stagnation. There will be no growth. There is nothing. If you notice how people who maybe we see on TV, they start small, and many of which they got into podcasting and already they're doing so well because they already had a following. They've already had a community that they've been nurturing, whether they were music artists before and people were buying their music, or whether they were an author before and people bought their book. It was an easy transition and great way to galvanize the people because you already had a community that supported you. And so you automatically get the downloads right away on the first launch or the first episode because you've already been nurturing and building a rapport with your community. And like I said, there's going to come a time where they don't listen as much anymore. The podcast feels stale, and you're going to go back home wagging your tail between your legs, and you're going to want your community to, hug on you, lick those wounds, shake you up and tell you you're doing okay, and they still support you, right? So without community, you basically have nothing. And then even if you're not seeing 100, 300, 200 downloads per episode, is your community still listening? Does your community still care? Does your community still support you? And ask your community if they wouldn't mind sharing your episode with a friend. I was listening to Ashley earlier today. This morning, I was door dashing at 4 this morning, listening to Ashley. Hers is the Ashley Empowers podcast, but she is no. Excuse me. I don't know why she came up because I ain't been thinking nothing about Ashley Empowers. Different name. Let's see if I can go to my watch history real quick. Tell you who it is. The Ashley Nicole Show is her YouTube channel. Ashley Nicole. But she was a former attorney, and she basically was getting, I think, $100,000 plus a year working as an attorney. And then she quit her corporate job to move into coaching. How to be a 6 or 7 figure earner as a coach and as a public speaker. So that's her thing now. and she's dynamic. She is a powerhouse. But she was talking a lot about that too, like techniques for nurturing your community. So I would recommend that you go back and listen to that episode, which she dropped earlier today. So this is how to fill your next event. Let's talk about the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Your event isn't empty because you don't have enough followers. It's empty because you don't have a system, right? So when you do gain the followers, you figure out ways to compartmentalize them. Sorry that sounds so technical and transactional, but you learn basically where people are at and what their level of engagement is and how they listen to your podcast. Are they the everyday listener? Are they the periodic listener? Did they ever purchase? And this is where the analytics come into play. She was telling us to go back and look at some of those analytics. Whether you have a CRM, customer relationship management tool, you can go back to see how long have those people been listening? Who are the people? Did they ever purchase a product from you? And then based on the information that you get from your data and your analytics, you then go back to carry the conversation forward based on how you first met said person, right? Then when it comes time for you to do a live event or something, it doesn't matter what you ask them, as long as you've been nurturing that relationship for a very long time. And she was talking about how to best do that, the different things that you can communicate to that person, how you can capture their attention in an email, let them know where you first met them. Don't necessarily drop links in their inbox right away, especially if you haven't been building a rapport with that person. I am very bad at that. So I took some notes because sometimes it can be very transactional for me. And sometimes I do a lot of link dropping on social media. But what you need to learn to do more of is give more of yourself. And in return, you'll get more from people, right? Less link dropping, less I promise you I can do this if you just click the link or comment the word free under my post if you want X, Y, and Z. Start just showing up and just giving information away and just showing up and being your authentic self. And then that's what's going to garner people's attention. And that is what is going to help you in the long run. And then you find out what the community needs from you. What are they asking you for? What are the common questions? Find those threads, narrow it down to about 5 different things, and just make that a part of your everyday ecosystem, right? So I know that podcasters mostly want to know, what equipment do I buy? How do I scale my podcast? And, what type of editing tools are going to make me successful, and what platforms should I be using to make sure I get the most visibility? So those are the common questions. So I try to provide resources, whether that is a guide, an ebook, a live. I try to provide that around the clock to make sure that I'm giving away free information as much as possible, right? And then when I ask people for a favor, hey, I give away so much game. Would you mind purchasing this product from me? Then it should be a no-brainer for some people, as long as you're nurturing that relationship. And like I said, community is so important. Going back a little bit to my personal story, man, when my mom moved out here to Washington State, she had no one. She just knew that she wanted a change. So she joined the military, and it was me and her. And I remember her saying she drove all the way over here by herself, following all of the trucks that were on the freeway or highway. And that's etched in my brain. But then when she got here, the first thing she did was join a church family. So she got a church home, and right away she found her church family. Shout out to the Rogers, who have basically been our family out here in Washington State for forever. And so that's just one example of what community looks like, showing up for one another. From that time, we were just embraced by the whole family, going to all of the family functions, all of the cookouts, traveling together. And that's basically grandma and grandpa, even though my grandpa passed during the pandemic. So it's just my grandmother Rogers right now. But that was one example. And then when my mom had to leave to go to Germany, she had to leave us behind. There was a family that said, we will help you. Even though that family left us at the doorstep of a church, they still stepped up. So community can make or break you, but the right community will hopefully elevate you. They will push you forward. They will refer you to their friends. They will sing your praises. They will give you those positive reviews. They will be the light when you don't have anything besides darkness around you. They will be your encourager. They will support you. Hopefully, if you find the right people to be a part of your community. And then when it came to podcasting, like I said, we had some people to give us some reviews. We had my Lyft driver became my producer. So another thing about community, you just never know who you're in the company of, right? And then it just became this big thing where now we're building our Facebook group, right? And we're starting to see new people come through the community, and we have a certain way that we do things in our community, and everybody's kind of like taking notice and following heed. And I just thank God for the community that he has sent me. God will appoint you your own community because there's something that you're supposed to be doing. So all of that said, you guys, I think community is so much more important than virality. You see so many content creators, so many influencers. They have 1 million views, but they could not take those 1 million views and convert them to do anything. Or I've heard stories where just because a reel went viral doesn't necessarily mean people have gas in their car, right? But I have one community member in particular that she never knows what I'm going through, but she always sows a seed and always gives me money, always sends me a cash app. And that's what community is. And as a matter of fact, one last thing, everything's just kind of coming top of mind, things that I did not necessarily prepare for, but she just sent me something this morning, as a matter of fact, that kind of also coincides with what we're talking about. And it is this. In particular, it says, women need other women in their lives who think they are a big deal. No competition, no silent scorecards, no jealousy. Just, I love you. I'm proud of you. Your wins are my wins kind of energy. So I almost got teary-eyed, but that's what community looks like. Not just women, but community. Community, we all need someone who just sees us, right? Sees our effort, sees what we're trying to do, see our passion and our ambitions, and thinks about us, and vice versa. So, y'all, creators need community more than virality. And I assure you, once you get community, everything else will just be that much more superb, right? Because you have the community that will make you viral. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't know what we're talking about. It's going to be something off the cuff. But again, the word of the day today was cold open. Try using that in a sentence. Go back and catch the replay. I told you all of the things I think you guys should be making habits of. Maybe we make that an episode this week. Healthy podcasting habits, checking your analytics, guesting on someone's platform, reaching out to sponsors, doing that on a recurring basis. Habit stacking. That's the word we're using for tomorrow. When you have a habit of podcasting and you have a habit of networking, there you go. Mix those two and stack those two habits and see what comes out of it, right? I didn't expect to be emotional, but thank you for tuning in to this episode. I will see you all tomorrow.
Hey,
But it wouldn't be nothing without a woman.
hey. Started out riding, man with the geezers when this shit didn't work. Talk about the cheek. All of them times my bad ass still ain't listen, was living, but taught me the ways they